watched a horror movie. It's called The Night Flier. It's from 1997, based on a Stephen King story, and it lasts 1 hour 32 minutes.
Nice!
Let's get into it. Let's. So the movie opens up on a small airfield in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of night. There's this older gentleman who is working at the airport, at the airfield, and he's radioing the plane. He's saying, hey, you can't just leave your plane there, you've got to move it. And he's getting no answer, so he says, right, if you don't move it, I'll move it. So he heads on out, across the airfield, goes to the plane, and it's this pure black plane with red stripes and red writing. Apparently it's a black Cessna Skymaster. Yeah, so anyway, the guy goes up there, looks, and he sees curtains on the cabin window in the cockpit, and then he opens the door. And he says, what's happened here? And then from behind, his head is slammed into the door. Or rather, the door is slammed into his head again and again. He turns around all dizzy and all woozy and all like unconscious nearly. And then he gets slashed across the face. And he falls to the ground and his face is covered in slashes. And he looks up and he sees, it looks like a vampire. Cloak and all. After this, we cut to New York City, a newspaper office. Yeah, the newspaper is called Inside View, and it's a terrible tabloid thing. It's awful. Anyway, we meet our main character, and he's storming around the office going, where's my dead baby? He's actually saying, where is my dead baby? Because he did a story and took photos of a dead baby, and he wanted that on the front page. Yeah. Good guy. So he goes to his boss and he says, why has my story been moved from the front page? His boss says, relax, I've got you a new story. There's 2 people been found dead at airfields and they've been slashed and they've had their blood drained. Yeah. So he says, I don't want that story, that sounds rubbish. Yeah, but the boss gives him more information. Yeah, he says it's this guy called Lloyd Renfield. And apparently there was an actor in one of the earliest vampire movies, one of the earliest Dracula movies, who played Renfield, Dracula's sort of little servant man, and he was played by an actor named Dwight something. Yeah. Ah, that is a reach. They've got the name of the pilot who apparently is going around sucking blood. Yeah. What? Yeah. Yeah, so they know who he is. But our main character, Richard, what's his name? Richard Dees. Dees nuts.
These nuts!
Richard Dees storms out of the office and he goes to a bar, and then a new journalist who he had just met and argued with at the newspaper follows him to the bar. What's her name? Her name's Katie, but he calls her Jimmy, as in Jimmy Olsen. I don't know why. She's not just a photographer, she's not got red hair, she's not friends with Superman. As far as you know. Anyway, she follows him to a bar and he says, okay, sit and join me. I'll give you some advice, kid. Never believe what you print and never print what you believe. Yeah, and then he storms out again. He's an angry man, he is. After this, we cut to an airplane sitting on what looks like a lawn. Yeah, someone's house out in the middle of nowhere. And there's an old lady sitting on her front step, looking at the plane, smiling, all dreamy. Oh, she thinks it's wonderful. And then she gets up and she looks in her front window and she sees her husband being attacked. She's just like, la 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 la, smiling away. And then she goes in the house, and a dark figure approaches her and she smiles and welcomes him to her next. The next day, back in the newspaper office, we find out that Richard has found out that Katie has found out about the story, and she's titled it The Night Flier, and she says, well, I'll take the story if he doesn't want it. Yeah, and the boss says, oh Richard, she's found out where Dwight has been lately with that computer of hers. Yeah, like she's Neo. She's working on the story, and then Richard says, no, actually, do you know what? I want this story. So the boss says, okay, Katie, you're off the story. Yeah, and she says, that's not fair, which it isn't. But Richard says, nah, 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 nah. Well, not literally. He does. No, he doesn't literally. He does. And then Katie says, I suppose you'll be wanting this then, Richard, and hands her a plane ticket. Yeah, but he hands it back and says, I've got my own plane. Yeah, so she rips up the ticket dramatically and throws it in the air, and all 3 of them stand and look at it floating down as we transition to a shot of Richard and his plane. So Richard lands his plane in a little airfield, and it's where the first killing took place. The first killing before the movie started. Yeah, we didn't see this one, that he talks to a gentleman, an old guy who's working on a plane, and he says, "Did you see anything?" And then we go into a flashback as the old man tells us, "Yep, I saw this weirdo in a cape, and I thought, he's a weirdo, he's wearing a cape." Then he leaves, and then the next morning he comes into work and finds his old friend with his throat ripped out. Yeah, it shows us, it's disgusting. That night Richard drives to the local graveyard. Yeah, where did he get a car? I don't know, they must have a car rental place. It's a very small town. Well, I don't know, but he's got a car anyway. And he drives to this graveyard late at night for some reason. He finds the grave of the person whose throat had been ripped out. Yeah, and guess what? He cuts his finger and wipes it all over the grave. I don't know what compelled him to do that. But when he does it, a black Cessna flies past and the pilot looks at him. Yeah, he doesn't see the pilot looking at him. He just gets a fright from the plane flying over his head. He falls over, and then this young gravedigger guy comes up and he says, "Hey, what are you doing to that grave?" And he runs off. He's in his motel room and he has a bad dream about the Night Flier coming in to take his life. Yeah, he wakes up and he's like, oh, actually, it's just Norman, it's okay, all's good. And then he sees there's writing on his window. In blood, written in blood on the motel window are the words, "Stay away." Yeah, good advice. That would be enough for me. Yeah, it'd be enough for me as well, to be honest. But Richard won't stay away. Nope! What an idiot. Back in the newspaper office, we find out that Catherine is also secretly working on the Night Flier story. Yeah, her boss says, "Oh, what are you doing? I'll tell you what. Just go after it. Go and interrupt and go and get the story for yourself." Richard's driving around this small town. He's back in his car. He's driving along and he comes across a huge road traffic accident. Yeah, there's dead bodies lying everywhere. Children and everything. It's horrible. And he gets his camera out and starts taking photos. He does, and then the state police come up and they say, "Hey buddy, you can't be here." And he says, "I'm the press. Get out of here." Yeah, and the cop backs down. The cop's like, "Oh, right, sorry." So after he's spoken to the woman's, so he's in the town where the old couple were killed now, and he's speaking to the hairdresser of the old woman, and the hairdresser says, "Oh, she was all giddy, like she had found her first love as a teenager." It's a vampire. And then he breaks into their house. Yeah, it's got police tape over it, but he's like, "I don't care, I need photos." And he goes in and he's told a story by the local sheriff that they found the gentleman without a head. The woman was killed and drained of blood, but there was no drop of blood anywhere in the house. Yeah. Oh, intriguing. So at the end of his working day, Richard goes back to his motel, only to find Catherine there. Yeah, he's livid. He's like, "What are you doing here? You're not supposed to be on this story." Does the boss know about this? And Catherine says, "He encouraged me."
He told me to!
So eventually Catherine encourages Richard that they can work together, and she has the resources to find Renfield. Yeah, so he says, "Okay then, we'll work together." So they go into the hotel room and they say, "Let's leave right now. Let's get packed up." So she packs her bags and he says, "Oh, could you just get something from the closet for me?" So she does, yeah, and he locks her in. So Catherine had told Richard that Dwight was in Wilmington, so he flies straight there, and it's a small airfield, a small airport, but not that small, because he lands, he sees the plane instantly, he goes over to the airport terminal, and there are about 30 dead bodies. Yet, men, women and children all lying dead, covered in blood, and it's scary and it's creepy and it's weird. And Richard does what anyone would do. He starts taking photos of dead people. Before this, he had a quick look inside the airplane and he saw all the console and all the seats are covered in dry blood. He found a photo album which was completely pristine, not a dot of blood on it. Yeah, and he opens up and it's full of pictures of this young couple from it looks like 1930s or 20s, isn't it? Yeah, and the young man is gentleman. He's a handsome lad. And then he goes into the terminal, finds all the dead bodies, and starts taking photos. Yeah, eventually, after taking so many photos, he decides, "Oh, this is enough. Even for me, this is too much." So he starts to run out, and then he slips on a big puddle of blood. clumsy fool. Well, he slips, and instead of just picking himself up and going, I'll get cleaned up later, he thinks, I better go to the bathroom. So he goes to the bathroom to get washed up. Don't know why. No, I don't know why either. While he's in there, he's washing his hands, he's looking in the mirror, and this is the coolest bit of the movie for me. That's pretty cool. He's looking in the mirror, washing his hands, and he sees in the mirror the urinal, whatever. He sees someone using the toilet. Yeah, but there's no one there. All he sees is a stream of liquid going into the basin. It's blood being pissed into the urinal. It's pretty cool, because vampires don't cast reflections, you see. You get it. So he's facing the mirror, and he's scared to turn around, and then Dwight comes right up beside him and stands beside him, and he's scared to look. He won't look, he's just looking in the mirror where there's nothing, there's no reflection. But we see Dwight standing beside him, and Dwight says, I'm not going to kill you. You're just as bloodthirsty as me, Richard, only in a different way. You don't care about people, you just want the photos. Yeah. But Dwight Renfield does say, give me your camera. Eventually, Richard hands it over. I mean, I would hand it over in an instant, that he's like, oh, I don't want to. Eventually he hands it over. Dwight opens it up and destroys the film, so there's no evidence of anything. And then he starts to leave. But just as he's about to leave, Richard says, wait, Dwight Renfield, I have to see your face. Yeah, I don't know why he has to see his face. But Renfield turns round and he's this sort of bat-like creature. He's disgusting. But he says, okay, Richard, now you've seen my face, we can be friends. He slices his own wrist open and blood starts to pour out. He grabs Richard and forces him to drink it. It's disgusting. What are you playing at, Dwight? Well, he's an evil vampire. Everything turns to black and white because Richard is now seeing the world differently. All of the dead bodies in the airport rise up and they start to come towards him. And they've all got sharp teeth. Yeah, it's like his London movie at this time. Yeah, as they're all coming to attack him, he grabs a fire axe and starts swinging and starts chopping all these people up. Yet, he's nuts. He is. And then we hear, freeze, Daddy! Yep. Everything comes back to colour and there are two police officers standing, pointing their guns at Richard. Yeah. And they say, drop it. Drop the axe. And it looks like Richard has been the one who has massacred all these people in the airport with this axe. Yeah, that would have been quite a good ending because, you know, he can get carted off to the lunatic asylum or something like that. That would have been alright. But there's more. There is. So Richard stares at the cops. Just then, Catherine comes in behind the cops and she says, Richard. And Richard says, oh, you're one of them too, you're a demon too. And he runs up with the axe, he's going to chop her. And then the cops just open fire and take him out. Get! R.I.P. Richard. And she says, his name's Richard D's nuts. And then she takes his photo. And then, cut to the next day, the latest copy of Inside View is released. And the front story is, we caught the Night Flier. It's Richard! Yeah, they pinned everything on Richard. Oh wait, we also see Dwight Renfield leaving the airport just after Katie arrives. Yeah, she looks at him and he looks at her and now he's this dashing young man. Yeah. What? But that's how the movie ends. Richard's memory is desecrated. Renfield gets away with it. Katie has taken over his high-paying position at the newspaper. Oh, I love a happy ending. So what did you actually think? Well, I've seen scarier movies that it is pretty creepy. Yeah, it done well with the creepiness. Yeah. I've seen better movies. We've definitely seen better movies. But it's okay. It's a bit gory in places. Yeah, it does go over the top, but it's quite a lot of blood. Yeah. But I'd give it a watch if you've never seen it and you're not too squeamish. Nice ending. I really like that little bit at the end where he's framed. That's what he gets because he's a bad guy. He is a bad guy. These nuts. We're going to go hit like, hit subscribe. See you next time. Don't be afraid of vampires unless they fly planes. Why does he need a plane? Goodbye. Bye.